What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another live edition of the WWE SmackDown post-show reaction. Of course, my name is Jose Ramos Jr. And first off, as we begin this live stream of the post-show reaction to SmackDown, I want to first thank you guys for the support for the channel, for support for the reactions. And it's been a minute since I've had one of these post-show reactions, given, of course, that I was on vacation for a little bit, but I'm glad to be back with you guys, and quite a lot of things to talk about in regards to this episode of Friday Night SmackDown, especially since we're on the eve of Crown Jewel. Well, first off, we begin the night's festivities with a segment involving Nia Jax and Liv Morgan, the two representatives for each women's championship on Raw and SmackDown, of course, ahead of their Crown Jewel battle that would crown the first ever Crown Jewel champion for the women's division. This was a SmackDown that was chock full of segments involving the women, so I know there's been a little bit of speculation and controversy regarding the booking of the women's division, but Triple H and company had three main segments on Friday Night SmackDown. Of course, we'll go back to the opener. Liv Morgan and Nia Jax just hyping up their matchup here. Of course, like I said, the winner would be crowned the first ever Crown Jewel champion. Not a lot of substance here. It's a lot of what we've been seeing. We've been seeing the teases of Tiffany Stratton. Is she going to cash in on Nia? Is she going to cash in on Liv? If you ask me, I think she's not cashing on anybody. I think it's one of those fake outs. They want you to think that she's going to cash in. She's not going to. I'm going to tell you right now. There will be no cash in. There might be an attempt. And believe me, there will always be an attempt. But I don't think they pull the trigger just yet. I feel like when they're going to pull the trigger, it's going to lead to something bigger when it comes to Nia Jax versus Tiffany Stratton, because I think it's a foregone conclusion that we're going to have Nia Jax versus Tiffany. It just makes sense narrative-wise. It doesn't make sense for her to interject herself onto the Raw brand and cash in on Liv Morgan, especially everything that's been going on with Rhea Ripley. And although she is out with an injury, I still don't think they're going to want to meddle with what they've already built there. I did like the interaction between her and Liv Morgan. It was refreshing. We haven't really seen a lot of promo battles between the two. I did like the line where Tiffany Stratton acknowledged Dominic Mysterio, who was accompanying Liv Morgan, of course, and saying that if she were to cash in for that world championship, does Dominic Mysterio come along with that? I thought that was fun. I like seeing Dominic's reaction. He made this face where I thought it was eerily similar to that of Eddie Guerrero, and of course, that is his on-screen father. But that would lead to the matchup. Of course, Liv Morgan would defeat Tiffany Stratton. As you see, we have the layout here where we have the results above my shoulder. Liv Morgan would defeat Tiffany Stratton in a matchup. You know, I don't think it was much newsworthy there. It was just a matchup to have as a tune-up for Liv Morgan, preparing her for her battle against Nia Jax, as well as keeping Tiffany Stratton relevant to the story, because that's going to be a key component as to who comes out victorious. I do think she gets involved, but for the purpose of this reaction, Liv Morgan would defeat Tiffany Stratton, and it would result in Liv Morgan getting attacked by Nia Jax. Nia Jax would be the one standing tall when it was all said and done. We know that in the backstage segment, Tiffany Stratton was confronted by Nia Jax, who said, "What was that all about?" And Tiffany Stratton, really smart here by Tiffany, by hedging her bets, by holding her cards close to the chest. She wasn't going to give away all of her plans. She just told Nia, "Hey, I'm not going to cash in on you." That was just an opportunity to get into the mind of Liv Morgan. And if you ask me, that's the smart play here if you're Tiffany. You don't want to overextend yourself. You don't want to be too friendly with Nia Jax and let your guard down. But at the same time, you do want that in the back of her mind, like, hey, at any given moment, I can cash in this briefcase and become the next women's champion. Of course, the next segment on the card, of course, was a tag team match between the Street Profits and Pretty Deadly. Street Profits would emerge victorious. What would you guess, right? Pretty Deadly has been utilized as a tag team, a comedy act, if you will. They really, for all intents and purposes, aren't a tag team to be taken seriously. These guys have been putting over many members of the tag team division ever since getting called up. Now, of course, that's just them following their rules, following their role, and I think they play it really well, being the entertaining heels that they are. But when it came to this matchup, it was elementary. We knew the Street Profits were going to win. I want to see more progression on where we're going to go with the Street Profits. If you watched one of my videos about a week ago where I talked about my predictions for the next set of tag team champions, I did predict it would be the Street Profits. Ultimately, I was incorrect, and I'll be the first one to tell you when I'm wrong, and it turned out to be the Motor City Machine Guns. But I want to see more substance out of the Street Profits. Otherwise, I think, and I think many people will agree with me here, they have something in Montez Ford. Montez Ford is a star in the making. Now, don't get me wrong. I love his work with Dawkins. I think they're a great tag team. But at some point, you're going to have to pull the trigger. Montez Ford is athletically gifted, fantastic on the mic, likable. He already has this mainstream appeal because of his, relationship with Bianca Belair. I wouldn't say that was the primary reason for his status, but they did have a television show. Together, they've become mainstream. Why not capitalize on it? Like I said, he's got the look. He's great on the mic. He's great in the ring. Sooner rather than later, you gotta let this guy soar. It doesn't have to be one of those, typical turns where one guy betrays the other. They could always go the New Day route, not the current New Day, but that New Day when Big E stepped away from Kofi and Xavier, and it was mutual, it was amicable. There was still love amongst brothers, and he became the WWE champion. Now, I'm not crowning Montez Ford as the next WWE champion, but who's to say he doesn't have that potential to become a huge star? I'm not advocating for the breakup of the Street Profits, but if we don't have a direction for them, why not take a chance on Ford? Why not take a chance? He's proven to be capable of having these fantastic matches. Look at Elimination Chamber, where he had that great showing, and many people thought that would lead to a singles run. Ultimately, it didn't. But he shows flashes. He shows these instances where it's like, yeah, I can see it. I can see him stepping out and being a big star. Because otherwise, if they don't capitalize on it, you're going to miss the train. And by the time that train leaves the station, all the momentum is gone. We segue into talking about momentum being gone. It was announced earlier today that there were a few releases amongst the WWE roster. It was announced that Baron Corbin, Tegan Nox, and Indy Hartwell all released by the WWE, wishing them well in their future endeavors. So that leads us to our next matchup here. It was Naomi and Bayley. They would defeat the Ways, Candice LeRae, and Indy Hartwell. So we knew, for those who were in the know, we knew and understood that this episode of SmackDown was pre-taped. It was recorded last week when they were in Brooklyn, obviously because the roster is currently in Saudi Arabia preparing for the Crown Jewel event. So it was kind of eerie to see Indy Hartwell on TV knowing she was just released. So I'm curious to see how that works. How far in advance do they know, okay, we're going to release this individual? Is it like the NFL or the NBA where you have like your trading blocks, where you have these lists of superstars who are on the the fringe, who are on the risk of being released or moved or whatever the case may be? Because it's not the first time we've seen an individual be released and somehow shown on TV. I mean, you look at I believe it was the Speed Championship. It was Ricochet who had been released, and he was competing for the Speed tournament. Of course, that's pre-recorded as well on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. Naomi and Bayley would defeat Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell. I would like to see what we're going to do with Candice LeRae, because Candice LeRae has an in with Nia Jax. She's already earning that respect because of her, tag team match with Nia Jax. What are we going to do there? How are we going to explain the absence of Indy Hartwell? We all see that Naomi and Bayley have a great tag team partnership here, but you're getting the sense that Naomi is being groomed to be the next challenger for Nia Jax. They're going to get a one-on-one contest. Now, whether it's at the Survivor Series or not, it's going to come soon. And the way, like I said, they're projecting her and presenting her in this positive and confident light. I mean, she had the stare down with Nia Jax and basically said, yeah, you keep that warm for me. I'll be coming for that. That leads you to believe that, okay, that's a matchup down the line. And it's, again, a couple of members of the Bloodline in there as well. And we'll get to the Bloodline in a second. But I do want to share my thoughts on Indy Hartwell. Indy Hartwell, I thought it wasn't fair. I'm not going to say it wasn't fair to release her, but her time on the main roster. She had won the NXT Championship at Stand and Deliver a year ago in that ladder match. A great showing by her, and a great moment when you saw Dexter Lumis help her win the championship. Obviously, Dexter Lumis and her, their marriage down in NXT. It was a great moment. She didn't really have an opportunity to have a successful title reign because she sustained an injury. And they moved her up to the main roster. We saw hints of the way reuniting. Dexter Lumis was moved off the TV and then joins the Wyatt Six, which again, I wanted to see how can we incorporate Indy Hartwell, and Dex Lumis. I think it would have been pretty cool to see that interaction of Indy and Dexter. What have you become? Where is the man that I marry? Where is the guy that I fell in love with in NXT? I would have loved to see that progression. Obviously, didn't happen. Wasn't meant to be. But Indy Hartwell, again, and her, Baron Corbin, and Tegan Nox, maybe it's for the best. Of those three, Indy Hartwell, I think, was the only one that was getting consistent airtime because of her relationship and friendship with Candice LeRae. Tegan Nox, we haven't seen in months. You would have had me believing that she was already released. Of course, I knew she wasn't. But if I were to watch based off of screen time, she was barely on TV. And it's another instance of someone who was called up without a plan. In this case, she was rehired without a plan. Now, what I think they could have done is send her back to NXT, not by any means as a detriment to her talent, and to, insinuate that she's not good enough to be on the main roster or not ready to be on the main roster. But we've seen times where, like a Mandy Rose, like a Dolph Ziggler, were sent back to NXT because the main roster was just oversaturated with talent. You send them down to NXT to present this next level of talent. Tegan Nox could have benefited from that. She could have had a great run, had a list of great matches with the young women there in NXT, one of the best women's divisions, if not the best women's divisions in all of pro wrestling. I think that was a missed opportunity there. But of course, we know her injuries in the past. Maybe that was one reason as to why they decided to move past and like I said, wish her best in her future endeavors. But regardless, wherever they're going to end up, Corbin, Hartwell, and Tegan Nox, wish them the best. And who's to say that doors closed? Maybe they come back one day. You never say never in professional wrestling. And you want to talk about never saying never. Look at the Bloodline, right? It was only a year ago that Jey Uso, leaves the Bloodline. He says, hey, I'm out. I don't want anything to do with you guys. He was tired of being manipulated by Roman Reigns. He was tired of the betrayal of his brother Jimmy during their matchup at SummerSlam, where he cost him his title opportunity against Roman Reigns. And if there's any indication that it was the right move to have Jey Uso go out on a singles run without Jimmy, without Roman, without the Bloodline, listen to the reaction of when he comes out to confront Roman and Jimmy. The way that crowd gravitated towards him with the yeet chants, to the point where when the music stops, they're singing along the lyrics to his theme music. Jey Uso has become one of the most over talent in all of WWE, in all of pro wrestling, really. So from a kayfabe standpoint, from a character, if I'm Roman Reigns and I'm supposed to be the tribal chief, you're supposed to listen to me, I run the show. How does he think about that? Because it's like you're looking at Jey coming back to SmackDown. This is the first time they're interacting together one-on-one in the ring in a very long time. And you hear the reception that Jey receives from that audience. Roman Reigns has to be thinking, whoa, where did this come from? Like, when did you become such a big deal? Because for the longest, Roman Reigns was the top dog. He was the big dog. He was the tribal chief. And now Jey Uso comes out and basically matches him in terms of that response from an audience. And Jey ran the show when it came to this promo. He talked to Roman. He talked to Jimmy. He said, hey, if we're going to do this the right way. The only reason why I'm teaming up with you guys once again is because A, Solo and the Tongans cost me my Intercontinental Championship, and because it's family business. It's all family business. He told them, we're going to do this differently. I'm not your lackey. I'm not your right-hand man. I'm your equal. And that, I think, was so detrimental to the character development of Jey Uso. Because for the longest, it's like Roman had mentioned a couple of years ago. There was a time where, as fans, we would see Jimmy and we would see Jey. And they were the Usos. And you couldn't tell them apart. To now, you see one over the other and you're like, yeah, that's Jimmy. Yeah, that's Jey. They've become their own men. And I'm so happy for them. And I'm so happy that we were able to see that development in both of them. Ultimately, they had their differences. They had their match at WrestleMania 40, which left a lot to be desired, let's be honest. But the fact is, they're still brothers. And brothers are going to fight. But if you push them to the certain extent, if they come together for a common enemy, nothing's holding them back but themselves. And Jimmy and Jey made up. Jimmy urged Roman to make up with his cousin. And we got the iconic pose of all three members of the original Bloodline. The ones in the sky. And I'm telling you, it gave me chills to hear Roman Reigns finally utter the word, yeet, yeet. And I mean, man, we had been waiting for a while to have seen that. They had teased it so many times with him saying no yeet. And now we're finally getting it. Jimmy, Jey, and Roman all together on the same page, battling it out against the new iteration of the Bloodline. I'm thinking it's going to be Solo Sikoa, Tama Tonga, and Tonga Loa. I don't think Jacob Fatu gets involved just yet because that's their wild card. I think that's the guy that's going to be the difference maker. If you watched my predictions video as for Crown Jewel, I shared that I still think that Solo Sikoa's Bloodline is going to emerge victorious because of a Jacob Fatu. Now, if you want to hear my other predictions in regards to Crown Jewel, be sure to check out the predictions video that I released last Thursday. I go into detail regarding each matchup and how we got to that matchup, why I'm choosing, who I'm choosing, and like I said, just go and give it a look. But in regards to Crown Jewel, we also had a fatal four-way showcase in what I thought was the match of the night. It would involve Io Sky. It would involve Piper Niven, Lash Legend, and Bianca Belair. A lot of contrasting styles involved in this matchup. We had the power of Piper Niven, the power of Lash Legend, the athleticism of a Bianca Belair, and the high-flying acrobatics of one Io Sky. Like I said, I thought it was one of the best matches of the night, probably the best matchup. Let me take that back. The best matchup of the night. And it was another masterclass of the women's division in WWE. Io Sky emerges victorious again. A fun matchup, a great way to highlight each of the women involved in this fatal four-way tag team matchup that will be for the women's tag team championships. Jade and Bianca have been champions for quite some time now. They've been a two-time champion ever since winning it. So that'll be a fun matchup. I'm so happy to see Io, really putting on shows every time she's in a matchup here. Again, very similar to like a Montez Ford, got to push Io. I know she was the WWE champion last year, and then she had lost the championship to Bayley at WrestleMania 40. But I mean, we're leaving a lot, meat off the bone here with Io in the tag team division. That's a lady, that's an athlete who could be putting on a match of the night each night. And the Raw women's division, in terms of its, world championship picture, is running a little bit thin. We know Becky Lynch is gone. She's taking her break, a well-deserved break. Rhea Ripley just suffered the injury revolving around her orbital bone. So that's two top talents. You're down on Monday nights. Io Sky can easily fit in that void. And the matches against Liv Morgan, they are similar stature. So it's not even that of an issue when it comes to their styles. And it's really just a matter of narrative. How are we going to get there? What's the story? Maybe call me crazy here. Let's go a little fantasy booking, and I'm not saying this is 100% how they're gonna book it, but it's well documented that Io Sky, one of her main inspirations in terms of pro wrestling, is Rey Mysterio. Who do Liv Morgan and Dominic Mysterio despise more than anyone other than Rhea Ripley on this earth than Rey Mysterio? I mean, hey, it's a stretch, but I mean, it's what gets the ball rolling here. Once we start putting our thinking caps on, I would love to see a matchup between Io and Liv Morgan, but that's a Monday Night Raw thing. We're talking about Friday Night SmackDown, and in the main event, it's a tag team matchup. Randy Orton, the Viper, the Legend Killer, and Cody Rhodes, the WWE Champion, would defeat the team of Imperium, Raw's Imperium, the World Champion, Gunther, suffering a loss, although he did not take the pin and he did not submit. It was Kaiser who would take the loss on this one, but it leads more momentum for Cody Rhodes and for Randy Orton. What would you expect from four of the best on the current roster? Kaiser has been ascending as a potential superstar, although he is second to Gunther. Kaiser has a lot of the intangibles and the mic work, the in-ring work, a guy that I could definitely see take it to the next level soon. Gunther, the world champion, I mean, he's one of the best in the business right now. Cody Rhodes, on top of the world, the top babyface in all of professional wrestling. And Randy Orton, a Hall of Famer in the making. I mean, what would you expect? But again, it was the aftermath that really stole the show here. Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton would emerge victorious. They would take the win, earning a level of momentum heading into their respective crown jewel matchups. But it was after the matchup that told the story. WWE loves to do this fake out. I should say Triple H really, because he's the one that started in NXT. But they love to do this fake out where in the corner here where they have the little logo where it's, we're getting ready to sign off, and you have the executive producer Paul Levesque and fitting signaling the ending of the show. But Kevin Owens comes out and attacks Randy Orton. And I thought it was a subtle but fantastic choice to do, because the way they're selling this is Kevin Owens isn't supposed to be there. He's prohibited from being in the arena, let alone coming into physical contact with Randy Orton, his opponent for Crown Jewel, and Cody Rhodes, the WWE Champion, the Golden Boy. So, in all intents and purposes, the production truck is thinking, yeah, we're going off the air. It's a wrap. Let's call it a night, and let's move to the next city. But Kevin Owens has other plans. He attacks Randy Orton, causes a distraction, so Gunther then puts a sleeper on Cody Rhodes, and the lasting image of Friday Night SmackDown this evening was Cody Rhodes in a sleeper hold by Gunther. The American Nightmare was about to be put to sleep and suffer another nightmare by the Ring General. Of course, we didn't get to see the aftermath because the show would cut. But it builds up suspense. It builds up anticipation for two of the biggest matchups that Crown Jewel has to offer. Randy Orton, Kevin Owens. A grudge match in the making because of the attack on Randy Orton. And I think it's going to be an opportunity to elevate Kevin Owens to another level so that he can challenge Cody Rhodes for another title opportunity, whether that is at whether that's at Survivor Series or Saturday night's main event. We'll have to wait and see. Gunther and Cody, of course, will be the main event to crown the inaugural Crown Jewel champion. If you ask me, I mean, hey, if you watch the prediction video, you know who I'm picking. And if you don't know who I'm picking, check out the prediction video. Gunther versus Cody should be a great matchup. It's a matchup that I think a lot of people have been wanting to see since that Royal Rumble interaction in 2023 when Gunther was eliminated by Cody Rhodes to win his first ever Royal Rumble matchup. Give these guys 30 minutes, like straight up. I'm sure they can tell a great story within the ring where it didn't really require a lot of build-up. You basically build this up as to he's the best from Raw, he's the best from SmackDown. Let's see who's the better champion. But in terms of an in-ring action, I'm looking at it from the standpoint of like a Drago versus Rocky Balboa. We have, of course, the old school foreign heel in Drago/Gunther against the all-American babyface in Rocky Balboa and Cody Rhodes. But the difference is that was a movie. This is professional wrestling, and the good guy doesn't always win. But hey, that's for Crown Jewel. So I want to hear from you guys. What are your thoughts? What are your initial thoughts in regards to the build up to Crown Jewel. What did you think of tonight's episode of Friday Night SmackDown? Who are your picks for each respective matchup at Crown Jewel? Go ahead and sound off in the comments. If you enjoyed this post-show reaction, make sure to like, comment, super kick that subscribe button to keep up to date with all the professional wrestling news that is covered here on the J area. And like I said, we'll be seeing you tomorrow. I'll be doing a post-show reaction, of course, to Crown Jewel and whatever happens on that show. But until then, my name is Jose Ramos Jr. Thank you for joining me on this post-show reaction for Friday Night SmackDown, and we will see you next time.